Beautiful. Um, KHS. I feel like that sounds like a radio station. I don't know who this is. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us your win.
So my name is Ishan. I'm in the Virginia, Maryland, DC area. I'm going to ask everyone if anyone in here is in the restoration industry, fire, water, mold. I'm just getting started. I'm looking to learn from anyone that have experience within your areas. So, I'm recently getting started with Redman Growth to put systems in place.
That's right. Yeah, we can. I don't know. Is anybody in this call in the fire, water damage, restoration, mold side of things at the moment? May or may not be. And then we can circle back around to your question here in a second there, Ishan, as well. If you
I
have
am not
maybe
in
more
that.
specific.
I'm not in that business, but I work with a contractor that does that business, and they get, I think, all 100% of their leads from a company called 33 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody
33-mile
other,
Yeah,
radius.
yeah, it's supposed to be a
yeah,
33-mile radius, and he gets
yeah,
a ton of leads from those guys for the fire, mold, and the restoration side.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we have had some clients
Yeah,
use them. How that company works is they run ads in your area for your services. And so like they're the ones spending the ad budget. And then once they have a qualified lead, they charge you for that qualified lead. And so the leads are typically more expensive than your average like cost per lead for you running ads. But by the time they get to you, they
yeah,
should be a little bit more vetted out, you know. And so it's definitely worth trying. 33-mile radius was originally created for restoration companies. I think they now work with other industries as well. But that is one that we've had clients have good experience with. But what I'd say is before investing money into that, the playbook that we run with everybody else is the same playbook for you. Like just because your restoration doesn't mean that it's different. It's still getting a Google business
yeah,
listing and getting Google reviews. It's still getting on Google services. Meta ads can still work really well for restoration. You know, I would make sure that we
yeah,
are, you know, focusing on all of our best practice, our best ways to market, the things that we've seen proven to work. And then if those things aren't enough, that's when we look at things like 33-mile radius and that type of stuff.
yeah. That's my biggest problem right now is marketing and trying to get on Google. I tried to get on Google Maps, I'm doing it myself. It didn't work out. I tried to get on, and for some reason it would never show. Um, I tried like getting verified on Google, it would never show up. And it'll say everything is good, and then like 2 days later, it say they don't qualify. So that's my
Oh
biggest struggle
yeah,
right there.
yep. Well, now at
Yeah.
least you're not
Got
alone in
Caden.
that struggle. You've got a whole team there to help you, and it's definitely not our first rodeo there to get you
Yeah,
up and going on it. So
that's right.
Okay.
love having you here, Jordan. Feedback question. See your hand up.
Yeah, so if it's any encouragement, when I came here a year and a half ago for KHS, I thought my biggest problem was marketing too. And part of this was to share a win is originally why I raised my hand. Our LSA ads were just not working at all. And these last few months, they finally kicked in. We're starting to see some movement on there. And the last 3 months, I've seen an increase in lead flow to those every single month. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But I also found just one of my biggest problems was just me. I had to get myself in the way. I did things out of the way and really take the advice that Redmond gave me and just keep at it week in and week out. And if you keep doing that, things will certainly get better. So
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yes. HP Mechanical. How would you introduce yourself and feedback question? Would love to hear it.
Good morning. This is Rudy with HP Mechanical. Our vendors for restoration, they hold a little dog and pony show at the supply houses, and they'll bring in donuts and magnets and, notepads, pens. There's also a little bit of moolah. So they already know that if they call us, we get $300 right off the bat. And that's kind of their flat. So if it's a small claim, for example, then it's just $300. If it turns out to be something significant, then they usually come back and say, hey, this is more than we anticipated. And I've gotten up to $1,000 from the restoration companies for the referrals. So the guy that I use now is he's just Johnny on the spot. He's very as soon as I call him, he's there. I have him on quick dial because sometimes when you crawl into homes and there's, I don't know, pool of unknown debris and other undescribables, it's you don't really want to work in that. And so, you give the customer the option of, calling their own guy or refer your guy. And most of the time they're going to go with the contractor because you're there on site and you're referring somebody. So the dog and pony show works well. I mean, I'll be honest with you, plumbing and HVAC guys, we like to eat. So you bring out donuts, bagels, and it's top of mind, send a text. Hey, you guys got anything going with your contractors? That would be my suggestion. That way, because you never know what they're doing that day. If they're under a house and they come across something and you're texting them like, oh, hey, I just, whatever, So that would be my 10 cents.
Huge, Rudy. Huge advice. Great advice. If I could get every client to do that, they would be better off for it. Especially in industries like restoration and roofing. And I would even say if you are a plumber, there's a lot of general contractors out there that are remodeling bathrooms and kitchens and not wanting to touch the plumbing. There's so much work to be had from just nurturing relationships with other contractors. I mean, there's such a wealth there. And like you said, Rudy, top of mind awareness. If you've landed a relationship with another contractor, don't think that, okay, well, now they'll always refer me. No, stay in front of them. Bring the donuts. Like you said, Rudy, nobody's mad at the person who brings them free food. In fact, that's usually somebody they like. So I love that advice, and I would say it's applicable to every single person on that call. Just take that and run with it. You'll be better off for it. Zach, I think your hand was up next.
Just for something like that, something we had some luck with at a company I used to work for. There's some preferred vendor programs directly through the insurance companies. A couple that we worked with was called West Hill Global, I think, and Lions Bridge. And if you get certified through them, do whatever their little dog and pony show, get in with them. And what they'll do when someone files a claim and they're just a little too busy, they'll send you out as the inspector. You'll go out there, you'll meet with the customer. You're the first in front of them. You're going to diagnose everything, write up a price, and it can typically go pretty well because you kind of get to name your price as long as you can justify it in Xactimate. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but we had a lot of luck with that, with roofing in general and mold remediation and things like that in the past at the company I was with for the last few years. So just might be something you look into, or even target the insurance agents in your area. Go talk to them. A lot of people call them, hey, who do I use for this? Who do you recommend in the area that's good? And it could be beneficial for you that way, instead of just get it at the front end of the source. Don't wait on the back end for them to start looking for people. Be the first guy they call. That'd be my 2 cents.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Amen. That's great advice. Again, great advice for everybody. Real estate agents is also somebody who typically, I know that when I first bought my home, that's who hooked me up with all of the contractors that I did not have contacts for, or didn't know. And so nurturing those types of relationships as people who are in front of your ideal likely buyers, that's huge. Rick.
So I actually work with a restoration company. They come. We worked with two, and then one they promised the world. It was like $250 if you send a referral, and they got the job. It was $250. But then this is whenever I worked for another plumbing company, and you constantly had to chase down your money. And so then it got to where they were more of a shady company, and we stopped dealing with them altogether. And I just hooked up with another company since we started this company, and they give $500 if you refer a client and it turns out to be a job. And they will hunt you down to give you the money. And they also, what I tell the clients is, HP Mechanical, I think, was saying, or Zach was saying about the Xactimate. I tell our clients whenever we go into a house, we're a plumber, so sometimes we're the first ones there. And I'm like, hey, listen, I can get a guy to you, right? I got a company that you need to use. And this company is phenomenal. Their guys show up. The last job I referred them to, they had guys on site within 30 minutes. And this client told me, said, I cannot believe how fast they showed up. They may not have had the blowers and dehues and all that happening that fast, but there was somebody there making it happen. And then I tell the clients, hey, listen, don't worry about the insurance, trying to figure out how to word it, because it can be worded wrong, and then you screw up the deal. I tell them, this company can help you walk through the insurance process. So anybody that's in the restoration, I would recommend know the process of the insurance company. That Xactimate, that's plug and play for the insurance agents. When they can come in there and they just plug your numbers in and it just shows up, that's easy for them, and it happens. This company that we deal with, in fact, this week, the sales guy's been burning my phone up for the last, every week he's burning my phone up. Hey man, let's go to lunch. And it's like, I can't go to lunch today. But it's our lunch this past week. It was three of us. It was probably $45. But the deal is they've been so good that I tell my guys, we're not using no other company. This is who we're using, and it makes it better. So I would say, learn the insurance, make sure that you've got that Xactimate. And then like HP Mechanical, man, show up to these plumbing supply houses and do donuts, do whatever, a giveaway. I actually, from this company, how we got hooked up with them is they signed up, win a free Yeti cooler. And I ain't ever won jack squat in my life, but I won a cooler. And so, and they hunted me down to get it. They didn't say, hey, it's at our office when you get them in it. They said, tell me where you're at and I'll bring it to you. And they were just very proactive is the word. And so, man, being proactive with that, I think that would be a good point to start with.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Love it. Yeah. And if you aren't part of our group chat, definitely want you to join so you can ask these questions, also throughout the week as they come up, new to Redmond growth, getting your company going. So want you to take advantage of all the resources. Yeah. Laura, I saw your question in the chat here, and so I want to ask it. I know you're asking Jordan specifically, but your question was, how accurate are you when updating the leads in Google Local Services? Do you mark every lead booked, etc.? Jordan, I don't know if you want to speak on that, or if there's anybody else who wants to speak on how they manage their Google Local Services and those leads. Would love to get Laura some feedback.
Yeah, so we are that proactive word. Very proactive in updating every lead as quick as possible. We don't go a day without updating the leads. We don't always input the customer's information, and I'll let Redmond, my Redmond folks, speak to that. I don't think that matters as much as updating the leads, like marking them booked, archiving, rating the lead, and of course, like keeping your information up to date and that kind of a thing. But yes, we rate every single lead. That's kind of the new way of disputing leads, if you will. And then we started taking the advice we got a couple weeks ago for making sure that if it's something that we don't do, that we're very clear about that quickly, and not, engaging too much with them, so that Google can pick that up and we don't get charged for those leads.
Nice. I don't think there's anything for us to correct in that, Jordan.
LSA is my baby, so we take care
Yeah.
of it really well.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
curious.
been really. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hi, it's Laura. Thank you, Jordan, for sharing that. So I fell way behind on updating Google local services. Matt and the guys got taken away to a larger project, and we took a step back from the service and repair stuff. So it got pushed to the side, and so I went through and caught that all up. But what I find is interesting is there were a lot of leads that come in where it's like a silent caller. You go back and listen to the recorded call and nobody left a message. And there were a lot of them that I, called back and they said, oh, we found somebody else, or, there was no answer, whatever. But I'm curious, is Google smart enough to know that that was a real person ready to purchase or ready to book? And in updating those leads, if you have those kind of calls where maybe you didn't have somebody answer the call right away and you're going back and catching it up, like how accurate
So,
do you think it all is
since
to make sure that it's marked as a silent caller, or do you just go ahead and book it as booked anyway? Because it probably was somebody ready to book with you.
I think the better answer is don't miss those calls. And if you're not able to take on that amount of service, rather than shut off the ad, just turn your ad spend down so you get much fewer calls, because that type of activity is what got our LSA account to perform very poorly. So, and it's taken a very long time to come back from that, because they rate you based off of whether you picked up the phone or not. And that's a big piece of it. And so I tell my CSR that LSA calls are like DEFCON 1. Like, you drop everything and pick up that phone. I don't care what you're doing, all aside from hanging up with a customer you're on, but put them on hold and answer that call, because we don't want to miss any of those. And so with the ones that you have, I would just make sure they're not sitting there with you having done nothing. At least archive them, rate it. If, they didn't pick up, or leave a message, I guess you could maybe rate it lower. But most people are calling to get somebody on the phone, and a lot of times service related items people want pretty quickly. So if they don't get somebody to pick up the phone, they're just calling the next one in line that they saw when they did a Google search. So
Yeah, exactly.
I would make sure that if you don't want it to get derated, to do all those things, make sure that you turn it down. If you can't take the work in, just don't turn it off. Because I was doing all those things. I was turning it off and missing phone calls and all the things, and got to the point where we just weren't getting any calls to it anymore at all. And, when I got with Redmond, I was like, how do we get this up? And it's like, well, one of the biggest things Google said to me while I was on the phone with them was answer the phone. And I'm like, well, how could I answer the phone if nobody's calling it? And so, Travis worked with me just like, hey, that means that if you get a call, you don't miss it. And so we've made sure to do a lot better managing that. And I've watched it go from getting no calls to like one call a month, then 2 calls a month, then 4 calls a month, and then we got into the first week and did what we did last month in calls. So like it's steadily going up. So I would just recommend doing all those things. And then if you can't manage the inflow, just turn it down, don't turn it off, and then make sure you still pick up the phone and answer. I would rather pick up and answer and turn away a customer than not answer and allow Google to make the decision on how they rate my ad.
Yeah, all super solid advice, Jordan. Again, kind of what Bryce said earlier. I don't think I have anything to correct on that. Like total solid advice. A few little nuances. Laura, if you didn't book the job, don't mark it as booked. Like don't mark jobs that you didn't do as booked just because like you probably could have won that job if the circumstances were different. Only mark jobs that if you entertain the customer, if you give an estimate, mark it as booked. It doesn't mean that you have to win the job, especially for remodelers. Like if you get a call from Google Local Services and you book them for an appointment, mark them as booked, even if you don't end up winning that job. The only ones that we want to be archiving, and I really would highly discourage anybody from just archiving everything. Again, like Jordan said, like Google sees that as you not doing anything with those leads. So the only ones that we want to archive are like missed calls, telemarketers, ones that we got credited back for, ones that were just tire kickers, we didn't make anything of it. Those would be the ones that you want to archive. But everybody else, if you give them an estimate of any sort, you want to mark them as either booked or completed. If you get a call for a service that you do not provide, I need you guys to shut it down pretty quickly. I want it to be so clear on the phone to Google that you do not perform that service. If you talk about, oh, let me send you to this friend, or, oh, well, if you give them advice in any way, which I know is precious for you guys to do and now the goodness of your hearts. But if you do that, Google's going to charge you for that lead because they think that you're getting something out of it. So just know if you don't want to get charged for the lead, if it is a service that you do not provide, you need to make it very clear you do not provide that service and you need to get off that phone very quickly. That's the best way to, when you dispute that lead, when you rate that lead negatively, to actually get your money back for it. Rudy, what's up?
So I'm in the process of, we already had a business listing through Google. We're in the process of getting it, I don't know, optimized or whatever it is. But I had the question in reference to the wrong call. It's like when I look into my my Google business, it always associates me with a park that's like, I don't know, mile and a half down the road. And I don't know how, why, when, where that comes up. So every time I hit my Google business, I come up succinctly with them. And when people leave a review for Finley Center, which is what it's called, I get a notification that they've gotten a review. And I've never, I don't know, outside of going there to swim, I've never had any association with them.
Was there a question in that, Rudy? You're muted, sir.
Who do I talk to resolve that?
So the pin's just in the wrong location for your Google business profile. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a completely separate entity. That's an actual city building. It's owned and maintained by the city. But when I come up, it comes up, like my Google business comes up, they'll come up together. Like, which one are you talking about?
Both of them.
Yeah. And so I have to click mine, but I get constant notifications when people leave a review for the Finley Center. And I'm not associated with them.
You somehow have access to the Finley Center's Google business listing is what it sounds like, Rudy. And what's funny, Robert Redmond used to do this as if anybody can request access to a Google business listing, and if you do not respond within 2 weeks, you will be granted access. There was this Mexican restaurant that we used to eat at all the time at our old offices, and Robert, every time we would go to some of that listing, and eventually got access to it. So somehow, Rudy, you have access to that listing. Not worth trying to figure out how. What I would do is let's get you set up with a meeting with either your coach or Caden, where you can share your screen. We'll get into your Google account together, and we'll see what Google business listings live in your email, your account, and then we'll be able to get it removed. And so that you will no longer have access to that listing. You don't need to have access to that listing. You're no longer having to get notifications for it.
Wow, that's ironic because I have a
Isn't
meeting
it?
as soon as this ends. I have a meeting with Caden, so
Perfect. So
Okay.
just let
I'll
him
find
know.
out.
Let him know what you just told us. Say, hey, I think I'm getting notifications for a listing that is not mine. Can we see if I have access to it? We'll get it.
Yeah.
We'll help you out, get it removed, see if that's what's going on.
And if you couldn't tell by us trying to struggle to figure that out for a second, that's a pretty unique,
Yeah.
pretty unique scenario.
That's what I was going to
Somehow.
say.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, it's like probably a couple of week, because it's a huge park with like a water center.
Yeah.
So everybody's saying, "Hey, yeah, we had fun. It's a good." I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You go do your own stuff. I don't need
Get
to know.
out
how
of
the-
my email.
Yeah. Anyways,
That's
Oh,
funny.
that is funny. Yeah. Hopefully we can get that solved for you, and it's what we're thinking it is, and it's an easy fix.
Yeah.
That goes for anything, guys. Just that we have a whole member of our team who's dedicated to helping with Google. And so if you ever have a Google thing that's frustrating the crap out of you and you're going back and forth with Google or whatever, if you have not engaged our team, if you have not met with Caden, if he is not aware of that or helping you with it, please let us know so we can get you engaged with him. That's part of the benefit of being with Rev and Growth is that we help you with those things. We take that on. So just if you're ever feeling like you're on your own with it, reach out to us so we can help. What other questions do we have going on today? Thoughts, concerns, things that we're working through? Feeling pretty good.
Nice.
I know a lot of people are in the thick of summer, thick of the busy season, so I know that things are busy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see Daly is going, yeah. So just survival mode. Yeah. All right. Going once, questions, thoughts, things you're working through, things you're trying to implement. Rick, what's going on?
Well, we have just started implementing the incentive pay. We did not do it. We haven't done it as like other people where the techs get a lower pay rate and then you have to build up and sell and do so. But we did do like I have one plumber that, man, he just wants his 8 hours a day and that's it. If he's got 3 calls on him and he gets done at 2, he was wanting to, like, he was mad if we put another call on him. And he's a phenomenal plumber, a great guy. I'm hoping that he's going to be the lead plumber is what I'm trying to hope for. But weekends is out. You're not going to get them on a weekend. After he said something to our CSR. I'm working too much, but then I look and he's not even getting his 40 hours. But then the incentive pay come out, and so we done the incentive pay, and it was like he called me and he's like, man, I was just wanting to see how can we make this job better? What can I do? And so that incentive pay has definitely just right out of the gate. I mean, we just started that right out of the gate has been great. I've seen a change in this guy. He's not complaining about, hey, we put another job on you, because now, it's kind of like them employees. If they do everything and then somebody else is riding the clock, but this other employee is fast and does it, well, then we punish him by giving him another job, And so the incentive pay is definitely been huge for us. So we're still working it, still, trying to iron all of it out. But thank you, Redmond Growth, for helping us with that. And Nicole finally getting it into my head. So that's been a win, but that incentive pay is absolutely good so far. And I mean, we're into our second week of it, so that's how new it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. Rick, thank you so much for sharing that. And if anybody has questions, about merit-based pay or how Rick's doing it, or how to get it going with your team, it will always motivate a great employee. A good employee, merit-based pay is always going to serve them well. It might help you weed out some bad employees. And Rick, I'm relieved to hear for this guy that it kind of caused him to shape up. That's phenomenal.
Well, and something else that I've noticed, our lead guy, Ryan, he's not always in the office, so he doesn't always bring his receipts. So when he does bring his receipts, it is like a stack of receipts. And so the merit-based pay, incentive pay, you don't get any pay on jobs that are not like totally 100% completed. Our office manager puts them receipts in there so that we can see the profit margins on the job and stuff like that. So we've told them, hey, if you've got a receipt that's out there and you're not turning them in, you don't get any merit-based pay, incentive pay on that job till all the receipts are turned in and we can complete that job from start to finish. And so all of a sudden now, this guy is bringing receipts in like every day. And he's like, man, I need that. He said, I need that pay this week, So again, this is only 2 weeks in and seen some pretty good positive changes. It's actually working really well.
That's phenomenal. I love that. If anybody does have somebody who's like not turning things in, not updating something when they're supposed to, a carrot or a stick. For this guy, Rick had a carrot where it's like, hey, if you start turning these in, you're going to get paid more with merit-based pay. The stick was, if you don't turn these in, you're not getting paid, And so if you really want to get somebody to do something, you can tell them every day, all day long, till your face is blue to do it. But unless there is a carrot and a stick, they will not do it. And so love to see that that's solving that problem for you, Rick. Rudy, what feedback do you have?
So I completely agree. And this is going back, I don't know, a couple decades. When I worked for somebody, I was in the same boat. I would do my calls and I was out because I had side work to do. And that's where my money was coming in, because cash money, and you're looking at the dollars. And so that's what my question was, is a lot of the times the techs that are really good, they want to get in, they want to get out because they already have people waiting for them to do work. And so the incentive is, hey, now I can do all my work here, make up a little extra money, and I don't got to work until 8 o'clock at night, which appears to be the good solution for this guy. And I know for me, inevitably starting my own business was my better solution. But when I was in that position, definitely wanted to be out of work and on my own, making more money.
Yeah. Any other questions today? Thoughts, concerns,
Question.
grievances?
If you have
Jay?
people, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Jay?
I'm doing well, I was
Good.
just saying, if you have people that are merit-based, right? And is it common to allow them to have other jobs on the side? And some I've heard of some people not liking that, some people being okay with that. I would just like some thought on that.
Like their own work, like on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Now I understand if like you're a plumber and somehow you know electrical and you're doing electrical work on the side, that has nothing to do with your current company. But yeah, I just I haven't encountered that, and I've thought about that if I ever had to make a rule or not, and how does that normally play out? It's
Yeah. Great question, Jay. And Rudy, I'm gonna let you talk, and then Brian I'll let you give feedback as well. But before I hand it over, I just want to say, Jay, that non-competes are pretty dang hard to enforce, and then you're getting like an attorney involved, and you're getting it written up, and it's just like I've just not seen it do a ton. um and so I don't think that that's necessarily the best route. What I would do is when an employee comes on board, you have them sign a write-up and callback policy already. You can have a little bit of language in there about how they cannot do side work for your customers unless it's a different industry, it's a service that you do not provide. You can have language in there that kind of sets the expectations and letting them know what that it would be a fireable offense if they are soliciting to your customers, if they are taking customers, if they are running their own work through your customers, and just set expectations in the beginning. And that's really the best you can do. And if you start to sense something, your gut is typically not wrong a lot of the time. So if you have somebody who you think is doing that, like I would just address it and make sure that they know it's something that is a fireable offense. Um, Rudy, I'll let you give your, firsthand experience on that.
Um, I, you know, I made it pretty clear with the guys that came on. I says, look, I can't control your time off. Your time off is yours. I said, if you take my truck home, don't use my truck, don't use my parts, don't use my equipment. And I've, my guys so far have asked, hey, my house got, plugged up. Can I use the snake? And so far I've had a pretty good communication with the techs, but I have worked for companies that were very adamant about side work. If they found out that you were doing side work, you would get written up and or fired, because they look at it as you're competing with them. But most definitely, you don't want to poach your employer's customers. That's a big taboo. That's a no-no. You don't, obviously you can come in under what the company's charging, and because you already know what they're going to charge.
Hey, you
So,
a service release on the garage, right?
Yeah.
Anywho, it's we have a conversation about it. It's nothing in stone, but we have the conversation about these are the do's and these are the don'ts, and it's kind of a unwritten rule. I don't control their time, and I don't expect them to sit idly at home, on their weekends or time off.
Yeah. Brian, what feedback do you have?
So that's something that we have come up every now and then. We do pest control, and sometimes customers will request things that they need fixed. And I've told my guys that if it's something that the customer requests and you don't actively seek it out, then I'm okay with that. But I make sure to make it very clear that you don't want to poison the well that you're drinking from. And what that means is don't, create a situation that could create a problem for the company. And so it is a little bit of a slippery slope, but I don't want to, he was just saying, we don't want to limit what the guys can do outside of on their own time, but also make sure it's very clear that they cannot create situations that could instigate problems for the company. So
Yeah.
that's my feedback.
It's very reasonable. set expectations, make sure it's written down. If you don't want them using your equipment or truck, make sure it's written down, signed and agreed upon, and just don't make assumptions. Don't assume people understand. Make sure it's written down and signed. Chris, I see your hand up.
Okay, so my experience with this is the moonlighting thing, depending on what industry you're in, is sensitive to some companies where some other companies don't care. Like, for instance, when I'm doing civil engineering, when I was working for a firm, we weren't allowed to moonlight on our own time, on anybody's time. We couldn't do any other civil work if we were working for that firm. But in the finished carpentry company I had, we had a situation come up where we had one of the employees he was looking for another job. Well, we found out he was looking for another job, and then he was going to take the company truck and trailer and go on a working interview with our stuff. And that's not okay. If you want to moonlight or do side work on your own time that doesn't use company resources, that's totally fine. Do your thing. Anything that comes to the company or is associated with the company or the work you're doing for the company on a job site, anything that comes through that avenue needs to stay with the company. Like I said, if you want to do side work, great. No company resources, contractor's license, tools, any of that can be used on, a side job. So don't keep it separate. Don't converge them or them overlap, because that's where you get into trouble. So for the guy that went on the working interview, we straight up told him, no, you call an Uber, because he had the truck and the trailer. He would drive it to work and drive it home. So we told him, no, drop the truck off, you get an Uber to go to your working interview, take your own tools. So we had to set him straight that he thought in his mind he could go do that, and that was completely okay, which it's totally not. So we had to, hey, no, give me the keys, go get an Uber. We wouldn't give him a ride or anything. He wanted to, try to skirt the system and be a little bit shady about it. We're like, okay, well, then you take an Uber and you go to your own working interview. You find your own ride. Now, if he would have came to us and asked us, we would have been like, no, that's not okay, but maybe we can give you a ride or help you out. But, it was kind of a salty situation. So that's kind of where it ended up. And then we realized that, hey, we need to make it clear that, look, you want to do work, side jobs, whatever, great. Don't use any of our tools, any of the business assets. Now, if you come to us and say, look, I got this job, it's kind of side work, I need to use this saw, special tool, whatever. Okay, we can let you borrow it. That's cool. You were transparent, you were upfront, you weren't trying to go behind our back. That's totally cool. So there's a fine line to walk there, but I like to keep them separate, keep them completely separate.
Yeah, thank you for all that. Yeah, I've as a GC faced situations where I've had subs in the past where it's like they have a project they're working on with me, but when the customer comes on, there may be something that the customer may ask. Well, I've had situations they'll blurt out a price or something that doesn't make any sense because they're not even the foreman on the job, or they're not even the master plumber or whatever. And I've had situations like that. So now as a practice, I consult every one of my subs and like, hey, whenever you're on my job, that whatever comes from that, if a customer needs any information, just send them my way, send them to the foreman. But I don't need you to answer anything. Be polite, get the information, give it to our foreman. But that's where the ball needs to stop. And that relieved a lot of headache for a long time. But I wasn't sure if that was something also involved with your employees as well.
That's great, Jay. Make it very clear who is the point of contact, who is the decision maker, who's the one who, customers should be communicating to. That can help solve a lot of that as well. So love that that's something you're doing as standard.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions here?
So there's a difference too between like who's your employee and who's your sub, right? And so in these two things. And so at least in Texas, we got into this deal one time between like somebody that's a 1099 or somebody that's a W-2 and how you can treat this person, and how technically like it was like a workforce commission kind of thing. And they got into this deal. This person was trying to claim that they were actually our employee, even though they were a sub. And it came down to basically that we had like too much of a contract with them, and actually we treated them like an employee. And so that's why it's almost like with a sub, you can't really tell a sub like where to be, can't tell a sub how many hours to work. You can't really have too many kind of rules for a sub, because technically a sub is kind of their own business, their own entity, their own deal. You're working with them like per contract. And so a sub is a sub and an employee is an employee. And so that technically, in my world, at least as a contractor, a sub can do whatever they like, but when they're on my project, that's where like those kind of rules apply, and why we have those written agreements with them that like when you're on my job, you have to wear my shirt, or when you're on my job, you cannot work outside of, you can't moonlight, you can't work with this client without talking to me first, or something like that. So
I'm so glad you said that, Lance, where it's like, yes, you can treat employees a little bit differently than subs. Expectations are different. But if a sub is on your job, they absolutely have to operate with the expectations that you have given them to be on your job. So like who they can and can't talk to, how they're supposed to act. Like a sub can sign a write-up policy and agreement for what you expect at your job. You just have less control of what they do outside of that. So I love that caveat. That's great clarification. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Put it on paper. I think I haven't done that. It's just been a verbal agreement, understandings. But I think I'll explore that with Bryce as well.
Yes. Love that. And we probably have a template ready to go for you. Can make it happen.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know that when I left the group call last week, that Robert tried to say that I was the reason we no longer say growth. And I want to let everybody know that that is not true.
Completely true. Oh,
it is
100%
completely
true.
false. Robert is the reason that we do not say growth anymore, and we are going to bring it back. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1, and then we're all going to say growth, and then we're going to close out this call, and we will see you all next week. So I need everybody to unmute. I'm waiting to see them come off. All right. I need it to be a big one. We're going to do 3, 2, 1. Grow.
Grow.
Bye, guys.